Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry, there's usually a graphic that comes in there at the beginning. What's going on, everybody? This is a new edition of BlackBoxBeat. So glad to have y'all with us. We got a lot of stuff going on here with today's show. So let's get this one started. I'm Kang.
I'm Maria.
And I'm Hells.
So everybody, again, a lot of stuff going on with this one. We've got, and folks, we kind of got an extra bonus for you. So Nvidia is going to be reporting during the show. They're going to be reporting at 4:20 p.m. Eastern. So as soon as that comes out, we got it for you. So how's everybody feeling? We got the debt ceiling drama kind of going on. You know, how are y'all feeling about that?
Great. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Hells.
Well, to follow up on her, great. I'm feeling so extraordinarily special that after all these years of us electing people and pumping money into DC, that these are the dipsticks that we're left with. That's really what it comes down to for me. It's like, if you ever watch attorneys negotiate, they always wait and wait and wait and wait until a deadline is upon. And once that deadline is upon, that's when things start moving. The pressure actually starts to get to everybody, and you start getting stuff like that. I think the unfortunate part of it is you really have an environment where these guys have zero ability to sniff a good deal for the American people. They don't care about the good deal. They don't care about the American people. So when I look at this, banner back and forth, there's no best interest in anybody when you wait so long to get a deal done. It speaks of incompetence. It's like in us, it's like we're like the parents kind of sitting there with no power of these kids that have a massive homework project that's due tomorrow. And it's like, okay, now what, guys? Now what? Now what are we doing? More of, I don't know, more of incompetence in DC and within the system. That's my opinion.
I agree with you.
I think
there,
it's funny
actually.
that the market. Sorry, Mark.
No, it's okay. I was just agreeing. I'll be honest. It just kind of feels like a lot of drama until we get closer to it. It's just like a
Agreed.
lot of
It's a lot of unnecessary drama, posturing. I think a lot of it's for their base. You know, what's interesting, I was looking, kind of doing some historical kind of deep diving, and found out that going back to, I remember we had a lot of Momo in our market reaction in 2011 when the last time that this happened, like on such a big scale. And the interesting stat, I didn't remember this. I traded through it, but didn't remember it, that the S&P actually from like July through mid-October, like moved down 17%, like in that period of time. And I think it's just interesting comparing it to now, because, you know, the market's just kind of levitating. So we're kind of still, even with these recent moves, like we're still in this chop zone. And I think the market just feels like, at least for right now, that something is going to get done at the 11th hour. I mean, Yellen's given us pretty much till the 1st, and they're really cutting it close. You got Memorial Day in there. And from what I've seen, it takes like 3 days to draft, if they do come to an agreement, to draft it, and then folks have to read it and all this stuff. So they're getting down to the wire, but I think the market really doesn't start to panic unless we get to, say, after Memorial Day. And then, you know, if they still don't have something, maybe then it's time to be concerned. But I've just been very impressed by the market's, you know, resilience to kind of hang in there on these competing headlines.
I do agree with that too. Market has been extremely resilient, regardless of what we want it to do or think it's going to do. It's done what it wants to do. I think for me, the biggest focus, because like I said, the debt ceiling stuff, there's a lot of posturing. It feels like a lot of drama. The main thing that I'm just kind of looking at and trying to keep an eye on is earnings. Nvidia is the big one today. We have some other big software names, Snow, Splunk, and TNX. I also believe reported just a little bit ago. So I'm kind of just trying to focus there and not focus my attention on the quote unquote drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's again, one thing that we covered this morning on the morning show, we were coming into it, and it's like, okay, so we have these red candles, And it's like, what is it for? Is it the flare up potentially of COVID coming back into China and potential shutdown? Is it the GDP, not GDP print, but the CPI print that came out of Great Britain that was way out of bounds for what the expectations were? Was it the debt ceiling shenanigans? Which again, it's like it just frustrates me when I see ineptitude. And I think over and over again, the system is proving that the people are just not in the equation. It's like whatever they can do for their base. Kang said, they're basically pandering to their base. It's like their base is the American people. And holding the American people hostage, that's not having the best interest in mind of the American people. But ultimately, I put it all on us. It's like we're responsible for these jackwagons being in there. It's like we are. That's us. We're responsible for electing them. We're responsible for holding them accountable. And we continue to do a horrible job of having any type of accountability for these people. So ultimately, we get what we get. These guys are a bunch of booger eating dorks at the end of the day that have no desire, like literally no desire to act in the benefit of the American people. Because if they had, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. This would have been done a month ago.
Yeah, I feel like if this was France, there'd be some stuff lit on fire by now.
King, it's funny you say that, but that's the thing. It's like we don't care enough. It's like we want to sit there and jawbone over some garbage that's being fed to us. It's like we get fed garbage in our food system. We get fed garbage through our media. It's like nothing but poison is fed to us. And so we're so confused, we don't even know what to do. It's like we spend half of our time arguing. If you really want to be honest, the last big events that have taken place, we have spent time arguing over whether or not somebody that did something heinous was Caucasian or not. Let's be honest. It's like, what was that person that rammed it in? Was he a Caucasian white supremacist? It's the red meat. It's like, what's Target doing with their advertising? What's Bud Light doing with their this? They feed us garbage. We eat it. In the meantime, it gives them cover to be absolute morons. That's my take.
And what I think is funny too is that in all of this, kind of a common theme that I'm just noticing is you have the principals, i.e., like the president and the speaker, and they're all saying like everything is fine, nothing to see here, da da da. But you get the people, I guess, who are like right under them as far as like rank or their negotiators, and they're like, we're not even close. So it's just a lot of back and forth, and it's confusing. And I would even argue though that to hell's one of the things that I thought of when you were saying that is that outside of like us, we're in it, we kind of are in the know because it impacts what we do for a living. And I'm sure like a lot of the financial business folks are in it too, but outside of a very small sliver of the US population, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't even know what the debt limit was, which is sad.
No, it's like we're numb to it, and it's like, and to be fair, it's like it creates environments to where, like last week's show, Kang and I got into it a little bit, right? We got into it because we were going off of red meat that is being fed to both sides of the aisle, and so while he and I could get along just perfectly in real life, when it comes to certain things that we have no control over, we get into it. It's like it is. The system does us an injustice, but at the end of the day, our only job here is to trade it. So I guess that's what we're going to be talking about next. How the hell did we trade this?
There we go.
Initial move on an Nvidia is upside, so that should be out here in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, they're thumping upside.
Yeah, let's go on to Shag Mary Kill and then we'll do a video after that.
All right, folks, next segment here, Shag Mary Kill. You know the name of the game and how it works here. So looks like Mario, you are up first. What you got with Pan W?
So Pan W was one that we talked about recently. I think I previously had it as a shag. I'd like to update this from a shag to a Mary. I love the post ER move that we had, especially early in the morning, very strong. Those contracts that we bought were the June 2024 195 calls. They're now in the money and up nicely. I actually did consider taking a little bit off the table this morning, but considering how much time we have, I decided not to. If you take a look at OI coming into earnings, because post earnings OI will reflect tomorrow, you'll see that they did not sell ahead of the print. They hung on to that, which is very, very interesting. I am curious to see what happens tomorrow with OI to see if post CR they start closing out that position. So as of right now, it is a Mary.
I think that space is going to get a lot more activity. That's it. Just to correct me if I'm wrong. That's more cybersecurity, that kind of stuff. Is that look? It's like that is going to be extraordinarily important, and it's like I don't know if they have a hand in being able to do anything about it or help with that. But you guys remember a couple of days ago, it was a real hot topic how there was this generated image of a bomb going off at the Pentagon, and we had a pretty big dip within the market on that day. There's going to be
Yeah.
more and more focus on trying to control these things, and I think companies like that, whether they're doing it or not, it's going to be something that has to be dealt with. So I love the idea. I love the trade. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, thank you,
For sure, and I like it too. Great job, Maria. That was killer.
thank you.
So I like
I
it.
appreciate it.
All right. For me, look, it's like my positioning and what I've been doing with the market, it really hasn't changed. It's like I'm still scalping intraday. I'm still long SoFi. It's still holding this bottom. It's still holding above this little five level, which I'm very, very comfortable in being out to 2024. I do want to say this as far as the flow and some of the things that we've been doing and paying attention to that I think has been very helpful to a lot of us. There's a lot of same day SPX flow that moves throughout the day. And from a directional standpoint, the ability of what Black Box has given us as far as this flow and being able to track this same day SPX flow has been very, very helpful in making sure you can come out at the end of the day profitable. So that same day SPX flow has been absolutely spot on. Like for instance, today they came in and they started hitting those 4120s at low a day, and we absolutely moonshot off the bottom into close. So a lot of great tools and weapons out there to be able to scalp. I'm going to continue to do that until I have a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more comfort within the market.
That kind of leads me into mine. Same thing here. It's just I'm pretty much looking at scalping too. For me, I put cash just because again we're still in this range. I mean, for all this like these tech, we've had some technical moves here in the last few days, but I looked through in prepping for the show. I looked through like some longer time frames on just a few things. Didn't want to get out ahead of Nvidia. Didn't necessarily know how the ER was going to, affect the ticker up or down. Didn't Apple? I see that still kind of in a pattern. Some longer time frame. So really, for me, I want to see what's going to happen after we kind of get past some of this debt ceiling stuff. We got the show up in the next one in a week, so maybe we'll have a lot more clarity by then. And so I'm just scalping intraday. As far as any longer term stuff that I usually recommend for the show, is I'm mostly in cash. So just kind of waiting to see kind of how some of this stuff shakes out before I really commit one direction or the other.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like what Hells had to say as well. I agree with that completely. And I think the most important thing that people tend to forget is that you can't play what you're not seeing, right? You can only play the setups that you actually see. So if whatever you're seeing out there doesn't match what you need to see, it's okay. If there's only two tickers, if SoFi and SPX are the only two that fit your criteria, stick with that. So I agree with the both of you.
Woohoo!
Also, King, I do have Nvidia. You want me to go ahead and give that one out?
For sure, for sure. Inquiring minds want to know.
All right, Nvidia. Nvidia reported Q1 adjusted EPS $1.09, consensus 92 cents, revenue 7.19 billion, consensus 6.52 billion. Nvidia sees Q2 revenue 11 billion. I'm sorry, yeah, 11 billion plus or minus 2%. Nvidia sees 2024 Q2 2024 revenue, that same number, 11 billion plus or minus 2%. The number estimate was 7.15 billion. So they guided up 11 billion versus 7.15. And Nvidia says they are significantly increasing their supply to meet surging demand for entire data center family of products. Computer industry is going through two simultaneous transitions: accelerated computing and generative AI. Q1 data revenues at 4.28 billion versus Visible Alpha analyst consensus of 3.88 billion. Gaming revenue came in at 2.24 billion, consensus of 1.99 billion. So it looks like data centers came back higher than expected. Gaming came back higher than expected. We're guiding up. It was a nice beat for the quarter. Conference call starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. So, like we said, you see right now, if you look at the chart of Nvidia, that is just straight up. There's not a single red candle after hours on that ticker right now since the ER came out. But you never know what happens on the conference call, right? Not to say that Nvidia's management isn't really good about not messing up conference calls, but you never know. So stay tuned for that,
Well,
or tune in on your own.
you miss a couple of things there. Just wanted to point out. If I'm just, if you listen if you listen, you can hear Nvidia Bear screaming bloody murder as they're running into oncoming traffic. It's like if you listen, anybody that's been short Nvidia, anybody that's been saying, "Oh, the AI thing is a bubble," anybody who's been down on Nvidia over the past 6 months, if you and been short, if you listen, you can hear the screams, just the shock and awe. It's like that
Right.
handle, that move. Ugh,
I
ugh.
sold my, I closed out my Nvidia this afternoon. Actually, I had June 242 half, super in the money. That I bought. I want to say April-ish. They came into
Yeah.
those.
Hmm.
Uh, did well on them, but I mean, obviously, hindsight's always 2020. That would have been nice, but we got out nice and green on those.
Yeah,
That
another
looks
great
like a
trade.
new. I was just kind of looking through the charts. That looks like a new 52-week high and a new all-time high. I saw a previous all-time high around 346. So that would, if we open up here tomorrow, that would be a new all-time high for Nvidia.
You're
And
correct.
it's not only that, it's like if you look at the Q's absolutely lit up to the upside. I haven't looked at some of the other pieces of it, but it's like everything's taking this and running with it. And I don't think, look, what's interesting, I don't know how much more time we have, but what's interesting to me about this AI thing, and I'm sure we'll do a conversation about this again. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where we understand that AI is going to take jobs and wipe them out. And when we
Right.
see all this money pumping in, this is all money being pumped in order to take people's jobs. So it's exciting and cool. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's another job loss. That's another job loss. Every tick up in a lot of ways is kind of along those lines. And it's a curious conversation that I think we should have at some point.
I agree.
And maybe play a drinking game every time they say AI in the conference call. All right, folks, that brings us to our next segment. We do have a viewer question. We do love hearing from all of our viewers. And we had one this week from Sam Sosa 007. Sam Sosa, a la Bond there. So the question is, what would you recommend to someone that's over trading, like a lot, asking for a friend, wink, wink?
Well, number one, this goes to developing your own personal trading discipline, right? If you're finding that you are constantly over trading, you need to size back down to one contract, go back to the basics, is what I tell people. Go into a very small account where you don't have a choice but to be super picky with what you're trading. Set a certain number of trades that you're going to take, and don't take more than that. It's okay to take less, don't take more than that. And when you've hit your limit, get up and walk away. It's okay to get up and walk away. If you need to open up a demo account just so you can keep eyes on charts that doesn't have money in it, do that. You can sit back down, you can keep eyes on the market, but at least you're not you don't have immediate access to an account that you are going to be tempted to actively trade.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think, look, we've talked about this like several thousand times, it seems like, through the years. It all goes back to your plan. What's your
Yes.
plan? If you have a plan coming into the day, you have a plan to execute all the way through. If you stick to your plan, you're not going to find yourself over trading. It's like that's the thing. What's your plan? What's your target? What's your stop? It's like, where's the plan? If you just wake up every morning and turn on the video game and it's just like, okay, it's time to play, and it's like you think you have unlimited quarters, you're not going to make it. You just aren't. So having a plan, I think, is very, very important. If you guys don't mind, I want to read this. Jenny, who we all know Jenny through the years,
Oh
but she
yeah.
had a comment that I thought that people should hear, and I hope she doesn't mind if I read this out. But She basically says, in my experience, overtrading comes from greed, and it's usually rooted in someone who struggles financially with their own account. If you also can't control yourself in a casino with gambling, it usually crosses over into trading. You have to get to the root of why you're doing it and be brutally honest with yourself. There is something within that I think everybody, if you once you choose to be honest with yourself, you can win over and over and over and over again. But if you are not honest, if you are not putting yourself looking in the mirror and having frank conversations, the results will be the results. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to. And if you don't, you run out of quarters. And that's a worse position to be in.
Yeah, when I saw this question, I thought the first thing that I thought was that someone is driven by the money, and so that kind of lines up with what she's saying. Highlights the importance of the mental side of this, at least for what I was thinking. Because this is really, you could study charts all day long, you could study flow, you could study whatever it is that your edge is, or whatever it is that you're using to rely on to make money. But that mental side of it is key. I would even put it, I've always said, at least in my opinion, it's 80-20, right? So the mental side of it, you can't look past that. And kind of, not to get cliche, it's that quality over quantity. Because all you need, is a one. Some days I don't take any trades. It's really just all about the setup, and if you're just not feeling it, just don't take it. But that mental side and is very, very key. And we could talk about that for a long time, because there's a lot of parts to that. But that's something that you definitely don't want to overlook.
I'm just sitting here looking at this Nvidia chart going, I wish I had a time machine.
Right.
It's like, jeez, man. Wow.
Well,
Wow.
folks, we'd love to hear from y'all. So if you have a question for the show, please send us an email at BlackBoxBeat at BlackBoxStocks.com. We'll work to get that on the show. And that concludes this episode. We're glad to have you here. Thanks for watching. Stay green, everybody. And until next time, peace.
Bye, all. Have a good one.